The world was once vibrant. Cities thrived with life, streets bustling with people, and landscapes painted in a myriad of colors. It was a time of prosperity and joy, where the warmth of the sun kissed the earth and the seasons brought their own unique beauty. Gone, swallowed by ice, the once lively cities now lay silent under a thick blanket of snow, their vibrancy erased by the relentless cold. The streets, once filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation, were now eerily quiet, buried under layers of frost. A relentless blizzard, decades ago, had plunged the earth into a perpetual winter, skies forever grey. The storm had come without warning, a force of nature so powerful that it reshaped the world in its icy grip. The sun, once a constant presence, was now a distant memory, hidden behind a veil of perpetual clouds. Land, a desolate expanse of white. The once fertile fields and lush forests were now unrecognizable, transformed into a barren wasteland. The snow stretched endlessly, a stark reminder of the world's new reality. Life, as it was known, had been extinguished, leaving behind a cold, empty shell. From the ashes of this frozen wasteland rose a warrior, Taylor Swift. She was no longer the pop icon adored by millions, but a symbol of resilience and strength. In this new world, she had to adapt, to survive, and to fight against the elements that sought to claim her. Gone was the pop icon, the songwriter, the star. The glamorous life she once led was a distant memory, replaced by the harsh reality of survival. The stages, the lights, the adoring fans, all had been swept away by the unforgiving cold, erased by the unforgiving cold. The world she once knew had been transformed into a frozen wasteland where only the strongest could endure. The cities, once bustling with life, were now ghost towns, their buildings standing as silent monuments to a bygone era. In her place, a survivor, Taylor had become a beacon of hope in this desolate world, her spirit unbroken by the relentless cold. She had learned to navigate the treacherous landscape, to find food and shelter, and to protect herself from the dangers that lurked in the shadows. Eyes, once sparkling with mirth, now reflected the harsh, unforgiving landscape. The joy and innocence that once shone in her eyes had been replaced by a steely determination. She had seen the world change, had witnessed the fall of civilization, and had emerged stronger for it. They held a steely determination. Survival. Every day was a battle, every step a challenge, but she refused to give up. Her will to survive was unyielding, her focus unwavering. She had become a warrior, forged in the crucible of this frozen world. Her once delicate hands, now calloused and scarred, gripped a crudely fashioned spear, a tool, a weapon. It was a symbol of her transformation, a testament to her strength and resilience. She had learned to fight, to defend herself, and to survive in a world that had become hostile and unforgiving. Her breath rose in ragged plumes, a testament to the bitter chill that permeated everything. Each breath was a reminder of the cold that had claimed the world, a constant presence that could not be ignored. But it was also a sign of life, of her determination to keep going, no matter the odds. The world was silent, save for the crunch of her boots on the frozen ground. The silence was oppressive, a stark contrast to the noise and chaos of the world she once knew. But in that silence she found strength, a resolve to keep moving forward, each step a testament to her will. She would not break. The journey was long and arduous, but she pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to survive. She had become a symbol of hope, a beacon of resilience in a world that had been consumed by ice. And as she walked through the snow, she knew that she would not be defeated. She would endure, she would survive, and she would find a way to thrive in this new frozen world. Survival was a daily battle. Against the elements, against hunger, against despair, Taylor had learned to hunt scrawny hares, the occasional bird, foolish enough to venture out. Her meals were meager, enough to fuel her fight. The wind, a constant adversary, howled like a banshee. It tore at her, trying to sap her warmth, her strength, her very will. But she endured. Her spirit, much like the ice that surrounded her, was unyielding. She was hardened, forged in the crucible of survival. There were moments in the eerie stillness of the frozen world when the silence was deafening, moments when the wind died down and the world held its breath. It was in these moments that the ghosts of the past came calling. Memories, a double-edged sword. They brought warmth, a painful reminder of what was lost, yet they also brought strength, a reminder of who she once was and who she was fighting to become. She saw their faces in the dancing flames of her makeshift fires, heard their laughter in the howling wind, her family, her friends, gone, swallowed by the great freeze like so many others. The pain was a dull ache, a constant companion. But Taylor refused to let it consume her. They would want her to survive, to fight, to live, and so she did. Each day was a fight for survival. Food was scarce, shelter even more so. The hunt was a necessity, a delicate dance between predator and prey, one she was learning to master. She moved with a grace that belied her small frame. Her senses were sharp, honed by necessity. The slightest movement, the faintest scent, all were clues in the game of survival. One day the silence was broken. A twig snapped, a harsh cough. Someone was out there, friend or foe. In this frozen wasteland, trust was a luxury she could ill afford. Her hand went to the knife sheathed at her hip, a precaution, a habit. She moved like a phantom, silent and deadly. Her eyes scanned her surroundings, searching for the source of the sound. There, a figure, huddled beneath a tattered awning. Their back was to her, their body racked with coughs. He was young, no older than a boy. His face was gaunt, his lips cracked and bleeding. He was sick, alone. He was also unarmed. She could leave him. He was a burden, another mouth to feed. But something stopped her. A flicker of compassion in this frozen wasteland. Taylor stepped out from the shadows. Her voice when she spoke was rough from disuse. "Who are you?" He flinched at the sound, his eyes wide with fear. "Please," he rasped, "I need help." The blizzard hit without warning. One moment the sky was clear, and the next it was a wall of white. The temperature plummeted, and the wind picked up with a ferocity that was almost supernatural. A swirling vortex of snow and ice enveloped everything in its path. The snowflakes were like tiny daggers, stinging any exposed skin. It was as if nature itself had turned hostile. Visibility dropped to mere feet. Shapes and shadows became indistinguishable, and the world shrank to a small bubble of swirling white. It was disorienting, like being lost in a dream. The wind howled a mournful dirge, whipping the snow into a frenzy. It was a relentless force, pushing and pulling, making every step a struggle. The sound was deafening, a constant roar that drowned out all other noise. It was the worst storm Taylor had ever seen. She had faced many challenges in her life, but this was different. This was a battle against the elements, a fight for survival. They wouldn't survive out in the open. The cold was biting and the wind was merciless. They needed shelter, fast. Every second spent in the storm was a second closer to hypothermia. She spotted a derelict building half buried in snow. It looked abandoned, but it was their only hope. The walls, though crumbling, would provide some protection from the relentless storm. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. The roof was partially caved in and the windows were shattered, but it was better than nothing. It was a place to regroup and plan their next move. "Come on!" she yelled, her voice barely audible above the wind. The storm seemed to swallow her words, but she hoped he could hear her. They had to stick together. She grabbed his hand, pulling him towards the building. His fingers were ice cold, and she could feel the desperation in his grip. Together they stumbled through the snow, each step a battle against the storm's fury. They huddled together for warmth, their bodies shivering against the biting cold that seeped through the cracks of the ruined building. The fire they had managed to start was small, but it was enough to keep them from freezing. Sharing what little food they had left, they tried to make the meager rations last. The storm raged outside, howling winds and icy snow battering the fragile walls of their shelter, but inside a fragile bond was forming. In the midst of the chaos and destruction, they found solace in each other's company. The warmth of human connection was a stark contrast to the cold, desolate world outside. He told her his name was Jamie. His voice was soft, almost hesitant, as if he hadn't spoken to another person in a long time. He was alone, orphaned by the freeze. The harsh winter had taken everything from him, leaving him to fend for himself in a world that had turned its back on humanity. She saw a glimmer of her past in him. Memories of a time before the world ended, when life was simpler and filled with joy, flashed through her mind. A reminder of what it was to be human. The emotions, the connections, the simple pleasures that once defined their existence. She told him about her life before the world ended, about the days filled with laughter, the nights spent under the stars, and the music that once filled the air. About music, about family, about hope. She spoke of the dreams they once had, the plans for the future that now seemed like a distant memory. His eyes were wide with wonder, absorbing every word she said. It was as if he was hearing about a different world, one that was filled with possibilities and hope. A stark contrast to the desolate world outside. The snow-covered wasteland was a reminder of the harsh reality they faced, but inside they found a moment of peace. For a brief moment, the storm was forgotten. The warmth of the fire, the shared stories, and the human connection created a small bubble of hope in the midst of despair. There was only the shared human connection. In that moment, they were not just survivors of a post-apocalyptic world, but two souls finding comfort in each other. The bond they formed was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a glimmer of hope in a world that had lost its way. The storm finally broke after 3 days. They emerged from the ruined building, blinking in the weak sunlight that pierced through the heavy clouds. The world was blanketed in a fresh layer of snow, pristine and untouched. It was a new day, a new beginning. They were both weaker, the ordeal having taken its toll, but they had survived, together. They had each other now, and in this frozen wasteland that was everything. They set off towards the south, following the faint whisper of a rumor of a place untouched by the freeze, a place where people were rebuilding, a place called hope. The journey would be long, the dangers many, but they had each other now, and they had hope, and in this frozen wasteland that was all that mattered. They walked away from the ruins, two small figures silhouetted against the vast white expanse. Their journey had just begun.